What's going on with everybody, man? I hope everybody's having a productive day, a blessed day. And remember, one life, one chance. We only got one chance to get this right, so let's go. I just seen the Halloween Ends video. You're not going to like the ending, bro. I'm just giving you guys a heads up right now before I discuss this video. You're not going to like the ending. Sucks. But anyways, I won't kill it for you guys. One thing I wanted to talk about today was there was a couple incidents that kind of changed my way of thinking when I was in jail. Kind of makes you look at reality like, man, you got to learn to appreciate life because it could be gone at any moment. I'm going to be real simple in the details. That way YouTube don't red flag me. But I want to show you that how, like, in a matter of seconds, on any circumstance in prison, you know, things can change for the worse, or people can change for the worse due to the circumstances they're put in, like when you're back against the wall. One incident I remember was an individual from Florencia 13 named Stranger. I got to know this dude in Ad Seg, but I was on the yard with him down a tier as well, but I didn't talk to him on the yard. I just wanted to introduce myself because we ended up with neighbors. I was celled up with the homie Stacks from Hayward. But this individual, he was doing life for a murder that he committed on behalf of the Black Hand, which was an individual he was working with named Ponyboy at the time. And I found this out later when we were neighbors, because we started talking since we were in Ad Seg together, going out to yard together. But on the yard, this individual and his cellie celled up together and got within 5 or 10 minutes, they got into an argument over the bottom bunk. His cellie walked in there and said, well, since I walked in the cell first, I'm going to take the bottom bunk. Didn't give him the respect, and he was youngster. And then Stranger's older, so he didn't give him the respect that he deserved, to give him that common courtesy to say, you know what, the older homie, OG, you know, give him at least the courtesy to say, do you want it or not? Instead, he just took it. Well, Stranger felt played. And I remember that night, I didn't hear no ruckus or rumbling, but I also did hear him call his neighbor on his van and said, hey, bro, my cellie. And his neighbors are like, shut up, man, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. He goes, yeah, watch, look. And I hear a couple of punching sounds, and I hear, get up. Get up. He's like, see, fool? See, I told you, fool. He's gone, bro. And me and my side looked at each other like, well, no way. Is he serious? And sure enough, Barlock comes around, and he tells the cops, hey, man, my cellie's unresponsive. So the CO started knocking on the window, calling the dude's last name. The dude wasn't responding. He was on the bottom bunk just laying in bed. They opened up the cell, and I watched this dude Stranger walk out eating a tray of duplex cookies and sat at the table and was just smiling at everybody while the cops went in there. And then the alarm goes off, and immediately they yell at Stranger, get down. And they cuff Stranger. And Stranger, like, calm and collectively just gets down and puts his duplex cookies next to him, gets cuffed up and escorted. Medics come in, and they escort the body. Come to find out later from Stranger, he was like, yeah, man, I felt played. Like, he really didn't even offer me the bottom bunk. Like, it felt like he punked me. So he used an extension cord and took that man's life because of it. Threw me off, man, because I was like, man, this dude got to be one sadistic individual for him to do something like that over a bottom bunk. Then I started realizing that in the whole, Stranger was always losing it. Like, he was, in his mind, he would cry sometimes because he knew he wasn't going back to his daughter, that he threw his life away on behalf of the homies, and they didn't. Now he's on this side. And then the last time I talked to him after reading his paperwork and always hearing the stories, how he used to work for the streets out there and collect taxes for Ponyboy, he found a Black Widow in his cell. And he grabbed the Black Widow and he started letting it sting his legs so he can go to the hospital. And I remember, why you want to go to the hospital for? He goes, free trip. And that's when I realized, like, man, you can honestly lose yourself in jail. You can literally lose your mind in jail if you allow it to be. And I think jail got the best of him. And he's throwing his life away every day. He was always cell extracting with the cops for no reason, just to do it. I think he needed the action. I think he needed something to do because he needed that. He needed something to keep him going every day because he was losing it. Nobody kept in touch with him. That was a reality check that I had seen in jail that kind of made me open my eyes. Like, anything can happen at any moment for any reason. Another individual I remember, he was a non-affiliate. His celly was a non-affiliate. They had been cellies for over a year. They were down a tier for me with my boy Chico from Highland Park. These guys seemed like they were like the best of friends. They were awesome. They were cool older homies, OGs from down south. And I just remember one time that dude goes to the hole. Once I left the yard to add seg, he shows up maybe about 3 months later, and I was like, "What's good? What happened, Drifter?" His name was Drifter, and he goes, "Try to kill my celly." And I was like, "No way, what happened?" He was like, "Nah, we just got drunk one day, and I got up and I was hungry, and I was like, 'What's up, fool? You want to make some lunch?' And then his celly got on the top bunk drunk and was like, 'Yeah, make my sandwich, bitch.' And the homie took it personal. Same thing with an extension cord. And I got to see that dude on the yard later on, like a year later, and he was in a wheelchair, paralyzed, temporarily paralyzed, you know. But he was trying to send word to Drifter, to his wife, saying that he's not going to testify, he's not going to go to court, he's not going to cooperate, he hasn't said nothing. But that just tells me, like, in a matter of seconds, you guys could be cool with your cellies, and then all it takes is that one trigger. You press that one trigger in somebody's mind, and they can automatically lose it, and you can also lose your life or your well-being over something so small. Because once you're in that cell and the cops are not there, it's hard to get into contact with the cop to save your ass. And in these instances, I was like, man, you got to really be careful who your cellies really are. As much as you want to develop a bond and make it peaceful, you know, and find serenity in this home of yours and together, anything could happen. The last one I want to talk about that really struck me very strange was a kid was going home. He had about 5 years. A young kid, young little white boy. And we didn't even know that his celly was a sex offender. And that sex offender was bragging to this kid about the charges that he committed. And the kid was trying to tell him, like, I don't want to hear these stories. First chance I get, I'm going to find a new celly, bro. I just want to go home. I don't want to hear about this. Keep it to yourself. But the individual continually to do so and brag about it and rubbing it in. The kid reacted. He snapped. And that individual, that sex offender, lost his life that day in his cell. I can't get into the details because they're gruesome. Just know it has to do with like a bunch of pencils and a cane. And he also put on the back of that dude's head with he pretty much taped a piece of paper on the back of his head saying case closed. And then when I wound up going to the hole later, that kid was on another tier, but a lot of the cinqueros and other individuals who used to come from that tier would basically say, like, man, that kid lost it. Like, now he knows he's not going home. He's facing charges. He's looking at 25 to life. He's going to court, and that's all he talks about is bragging about taking this man's life. And which it sucks. I don't have no sympathy for the sex offender, but it sucks that this kid lost his life because they put him in a cell with somebody who didn't acknowledge the fact that he didn't want to hear about these sex crimes. And he committed the act in which he's now looking at 25 to life. It's always a possibility there that exists, that if you're celled up with somebody, you don't know what that man's capable of yet until you see it. You don't know what you can possibly do, whether you mean to or not, to press that man's buttons. And then it's like I said, I've been seeing it many, many times. A lot of people in their cells are killing their cellies, and they're losing their lives because of something small, whether they got drunk, whether they were tweaked out for like a week straight. There's plenty more instances I can talk about and share with you guys that you guys need to understand. Even as us men that are committing crimes and are going to return back to prison, or for the youth that's paying attention to what I'm saying, dude, the possibility's real big that you can go into that cell and never walk out of there because you might push that man to that extent where he reacts on a sudden impulse, and you could lose your life. I got in contact with my mom a year before I came home. She wasn't with me the whole time, my whole prison term. But she was a nurse in Corcoran, old Corcoran. And a celly, which was a cinquero, had another celly who had one arm. He choked him to death over the cinquero getting drunk and pulling his pants down and flashing his brothers in the cages. They went back in the cell, and the man choked him. And think about it, he only had one arm. And he wasn't able to defend himself properly like a man with two arms. And he lost his life. And that's when my mom came to visit me and was like, man, I didn't know this was going on in here. I'm sad. I want to just come home. You know, I want to be part of your life. Now I didn't know it was to that extent in here. And I try to tell her, like, yeah, it happens all the time. I've been able to defend myself and protect myself in the best ways possible. So with that being said, that's my message for today, is that when you're in them cells, we all come from different lifestyles. We all have done things that some of us probably won't ever share with each other. But you'll never know what a man's capable of until you push him to that extent. And that's why I think we should start promoting a lot more respect towards one another on the streets and in prison. Because out here, we can claim all different sides, different gangs, different factions, affiliations. And we're all tough around our homies. But when you get confronted by that individual who's willing to challenge you and meet that challenge, I mean, it's your life against his life, man. It's probably one of the biggest fights you're ever going to fight. You take his, he takes yours. But don't always think that you can go out there and take somebody else's life and nobody can take it from you. Because you can lose your life that fast, the way I saw a bunch of these individuals lose their lives. And they're never coming home. They're gone. They're passed away. So with that being said, everybody have a blessed day. One life, one chance. Let's all continue to be productive and stay successful. Thank you.